Welcome to the Bill Cartwright Show with our co-host who's back, Steve Cohen. Our
Thank
special
you.
guest today is professional counselor, Dr. Roger Rhoades. Roger, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Now, Roger, and I'm not really sure. What am I? Should I call you Dr. Rhoades or Roger or
How about hey you?
hey you?
I've been coached in my lifetime, and I guarantee you that I've learned to listen to that. Hey you, get over here. Get back on the line. So I come from that culture.
Okay, well, Roger, this is what I'd like everybody to know you really quickly. Can you talk about yourself, where you grew up, a little bit about mom and dad, and I want to know what kind of kid you were in high school.
Oh, I'm going to help you with kid I am first because I've been reading a bunch of Calvin and Hobbes cartoons, and I was Calvin. I was a hyperactive Opie growing up. My wife always says if they would have given out medication, I would have got it when I was young, but I grew up before they came up with medication for hyperactivity. I'm an old Okie guy. I spent my first 20 years of my life as an Okie, and then graduated from Illinois State, then graduated from New Orleans Baptist Seminary, then graduated from Graduate Theological. Been a counselor, licensed counselor since 1987. Started doing counseling in Georgia, and eventually started in Augusta, Georgia, then moved to Athens, Georgia, then moved to Greenville, South Carolina. Met my wife, she wouldn't let me leave, and been more blessed more than I deserve. That would be on my tombstone. It'll say Roger Rhoades blessed more than he was deserved.
You talk about this for a second. I'm going to back you up 1 second. So,
Sure.
In your education, wow, what a route that you led from when you were in high school.
Oh yeah.
So what led you on the path of your education when you were in college?
Love. I was dating a girl in Oklahoma. She moved to Illinois, and I followed her.
Wow.
And also, my sister was up there in the state, and so I was able to get in-state education. Even though I'd lived in Oklahoma, the fact that my sister lived in Illinois, I used her as a location to be there. And I was originally, I don't believe this, I was originally going to be a drama teacher. And then I got around a bunch of teachers, and I thought, nope, no, this I wasn't built to be a teacher. And so I moved down to Atlanta and was working in Atlanta. And one of the boys I went to church with was going to school in New Orleans. And I said, Goo, that's cool. I said, do you think they might teach counseling there? And he said, yeah. And so 30 days from that conversation, I was living in New Orleans, going to school, and working for DePaul Hospital in counseling.
So you talked about church. Now, I went to various different types of church, Seventh-day Adventist, Baptist, Methodist, Lutheran, that I really like. So what church did you grow up in?
Southern Baptist. My grandparents were Southern Baptists in Oklahoma, and they went to church every Sunday, and that's what we did. And so I followed that along, and still following that direction. Makes sense to me. It's like, one of the things I learned in all this is that Miracle Whip is not mayonnaise. Did you know that? I didn't know Miracle Whip wasn't mayonnaise. But see, when I asked my mother for mayonnaise, she always gave me Miracle Whip because that's what they did in Oklahoma. But then I moved somewhere where they gave me regular mayonnaise, and I thought, ooh, this tastes terrible. What is this? So that's mayonnaise. I said, no, it's Miracle Whip. They said, no, Miracle Whip salad dressing. So you got to watch when you live in a particular area like San Francisco or wherever you live, it has its own unique taste. And if you here's the thought: if you ever want to go to Europe but you don't have the money for the plane trip, drive over to New Orleans. New Orleans is Europe in America. It is. It is. The people there are different people, and they eat different stuff. And either you love to do that or you don't. But I had never eaten stuff like I'd eaten in New Orleans. Wow. Wild cuisine.
Did you talk about your first counseling and talked about the area that's your specialty?
You're not going to believe it, but when I first started counseling, I did it with 7, 8, 9-year-olds, babies. And I learned very quickly, being over 6'2" and 200 pounds, too big to work with children. that was I walk in the room, they're like, that didn't work. Then I moved to working with teenagers, and that wasn't too bad. But then I moved to working with adults, and that really clicked. And after that, I started working in drug and alcohol. That worked. And then I started working in domestic violence. That worked. So I have an extensive and prison working with prisoners. There in domestic violence connect, and alcohol that connects with domestic violence and prison work, and adults. So I would say today that's probably, and this is so weird, my specialty is dysfunctional relationships. That is what I specialize in. That all the things led me to learn about that and how to help people who disconnect. One of the things I learned from that I thought was very important is there's a big difference between getting married and being married. See, because anybody in the world who can say I do can get married in America. I mean, and passion is the number one driving force that causes people to get married. They get hot for somebody and they say I do. Then there's a whole nother stage after that. And that is, now you got to be married. That means you got to show up. You got to be there in the good, the bad, the ugly. Even though people say all the time, I'm ready for that. No, they're not. They say, oh, and what's wild is I thought, well, if you grew up in a good family, things are going to work out. That's not true either. I've seen good family, people brought up good family, terrible married. I've seen people grow up in the sticks and have great marriage. It's about, are you willing to make an investment? There's where the water hits the wheel, investing. See, investors think about, good investing is about thinking about the long term. What's going on? Am I willing? I know I'm hot for this person right now. Wait a minute, am I willing to invest that I don't care what the temperature is here? I'm staying with this person. Because you're going to learn a whole bunch of stuff you don't like. And are you willing to stay? And if you are, then you know everything about being married.
Well, that is interesting because that's going to take us to our next subject, which is I'm really familiar with because I, as you know, work for the University of San Francisco, and being an athlete there, that kind of relationship of being a student athlete has changed.
Ooh, man.
And it's really interesting because every year now, because there's only 351 Division I college teams, but yet over 1,500 kids transfer now in the portal a year, and over 1,000 gals transfer every year. So do you think kids are different now? Do you think they're more entitled now? Do you think that why do you believe there's all this moving going on in these kind of relationships?
Here it is. They in a year it takes them to get a clue that they are a square peg trying to get into a round hole. See, they went to that college, they took that scholarship, they wanted to play for that team based on rudimentary small level of information. When they get to the college, when they get with the coach, when they have to show up every day, when they've got to go to class every day, all of a sudden, it's a they're there. It's life. And what they find then is they go, wait a minute, I just don't really fit here. And so that's where the transfer has allowed people to wake up to the fact that they don't fit where they are, to figure out where they feel they might fit. And I think that this generation is very invested in fitting, in having a fit, you know, and I think that is transferred up to the pros. I think you see people that are great players, super players, but what do you hear them saying as they've been there? I just don't feel like it's a good fit. When you listen to the coaches, they say, we're looking for the right fit. And so a player who better knows themselves and a team that best represents who they truly are, they're going to be winners down the road. They may not be winners in games, but the people that graduate from that school and that program are going to be winners.
So do you feel like kids are just more entitled now? Because I do think that's interesting, because we've got a ton of media. We've got Facebook, we got Snapchat, we got their parents and their friends telling them how great they are. Or is it the coaches or the people who are there not adjusting to the kids? So how can we make this fit work?
Oh, watch, I'm going to make a jump for you right here. I heard a question given to Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead about being famous. And Jerry looked over and said, the person asked him, how do you handle fame? And Jerry looked at him and said, no one can handle fame. That's the difference. Back in the day, fame was real selective. I mean, the minor few had the exposure that the average successful athlete has. And so trying to connect with someone whose head and image is in fame, wow, too many voices in their head. You know, there's a reason when you think about the military, okay, all kinds of people go in the military. But wait a minute, is the military selective? No. What the military is great at is training. They march and march and march and march and shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot, and people yell at them, laugh until they only hear one voice. And there's a reason why in the military, you sign up, they don't let you out unless it's a bad discharge, you know? And I think that is kind of where coaching is going to have to go. They're going to say, you know, are you going to come in and here's quote unquote the family, and we want you to be part of the family for 4 years. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And as long as you've got that transfer, it's easy to get into college and be lost. And a lot of kids, not only in sports, but in everything, they go in, they don't have a clue. Oh, here's another. You know, I lived and worked in Athens, Georgia, where the University of Georgia is.
Yeah.
And those people told me they counted on 1/3 of their entire freshman class would drop out by December. Now think of the time, money, and energy invested, not in that's athletes, that's everybody. That they 1/3, that was in the thousands that were going to leave that school. All the time, money, and energy invested. Okay. Because they didn't have a clear vision of what college was. They didn't have a clear vision of what the team was.
Well, let me ask you, Roger, how can they have that with all of this stuff that they see is so individual, and there's so many individual advantages that people get rewarded in just talking about themselves, uh, being a big scorer, being a hero. That's not congruent to basketball. So how can that?
None of
Why
that
would they want
spells
to do that?
team. What I hear from there, none of that. Oh, I can do this. I love the phrase, there is no I in team. Yeah, buddy. And what is the number one quality of successful people? Humility. When you look at truly successful people, they're humble. But if they get a big case of themselves, now I'm going to show my age. The back that played for Ohio State started with a C. And he was so full of himself. And he let some rapper be his agent. And he never went anywhere. Now, he was the top runner when he went out of high school. But see, when you have humility, you move the amount of voices in your ear down very close, very close. A small group of people, okay? And I think that's going to be a part of the future with athletes in schools, is them willing to invest in the culture the players came from.
And just to interrupt you were talking about Maurice Claret, right?
Yes, Maurice, yeah. Thank you. Yes, there it is. Can you believe that? Such talent, such talent. And every time I think of his name, I think of a toilet flushing. That was his career. Yeah, no, it's true. You've got to have a finger on the pulse of the culture that these kids come from. And remember, they're kids. They're kids. My Lord, man. But they are a small step away from who raised them. That is going to be, I think, a clear thing that I think more teams we're going to see. The winners, the people that are really doing good, you hear them talk about family. We've got a family here. We've created a family here. We understand. Oh, see, and that's hard to move off of. If I feel part of the family, to go to some place that says you're wonderful, oh, that is rolling the dice. And I don't know many people that are willing to do that. But when we don't know your family, we're just looking for you to come in. We got you a scholarship, so you will perform. What they're actually doing in that is depersonalizing the kids. And then the kids are going to listen to other voices, and they're going to find somewhere else where people, they feel like understand them. Or that I'm a winner and I want to be with a bunch of winners. That's the pivot point of kids moving out of schools and going someplace else, or athletes going to somewhere else. And I think the best, it's like, who's the big coach in California basketball? Wooten. Okay. Have you noticed how Wooten's players still connect with him? Oh, well, he's gone now. But that was a personal relationship. What was he doing when they first showed up? Teaching them how to put their socks and shoes on. Woo, buddy. See, it was he thought he gave me this great basketball theory. That's crap. I don't talk about that. You hear people and they went different directions, man. Everybody who was a great athlete there turned out to be different men. But the one thing that's connecting all those great players was Wooten. They talked about him. They talked about their connection with him, the personal connection. And I believe that is the key. That I don't think as a culture we've changed so much that family is not still powerful, the most powerful.
But let me ask you that when kids are young and they believe they have ability, what do you do with a kid who believes he's or she is extraordinarily talented?
Wait a minute. Think about somebody famous coming home to their family, okay? Some actor or actress or somebody who's famous, right? What happens when they come home to the people they grew up with? They go around the people they went to high school with. They go around their family. They don't treat them special at all. And they don't give them any extra bit. It's like, yeah, that's George. That's what they do, you know. They realize that you're no big deal. Is the message they send, you know. And there becomes the true nature of a winner is to still do well and be normal. Woo, what a mix. Man, that's hard. That's hard. Be normal and be a performer. Because see, if you've been a performer, people are like, oh, you're the best, you're the greatest, you love. People love to smoke, to blow smoke up people 24/7 because it makes them a nickel. They don't care about the person. They just, oh, we're going to use you. That's what's going on. So I think that when a team is able to normalize great play, great players, great abilities, they will do well. You know, that, hey, if we're a family here, you're a member. You're a member. And I think that will be the draw. That will be the power. And if a person is influenced by praise, I don't care who you are, you can't keep them. Because they're always looking for the next praise.
Well, let me ask you a question. Everybody has a level. And like if I'm a professional athlete, let's say I'm a baseball player.
Yeah.
Am I a single A, double A, triple A, or am I a major league player? How do I find my level? Who's going to tell me that? And who's going to get me to understand where I should be?
You're going to love the answer. Think of bird watching, okay? And what is the phrase you've always heard about birds? Birds of a feather flock together, okay? Try to be a double A player and hang with pros. They smell that real quick, okay? You know, if you show up and do your best, you will naturally be attracted to the flock that's like you, okay? And boy, you brought up a good one because baseball, if you want to see it play out, baseball is probably the best place to see it play out. Go to spring training and see how they treat each other. Wow, buddy. Either you step up or you step out. There's not much business. You know, they play. I watched majors do spring training in Florida when I lived there. Oh my Lord, goodness gracious! I was there when Michael Jordan was playing baseball. Okay, didn't play that well. See, I mean, he was a championship basketball player. He drew the crowds in, but he wasn't a major league player, and they knew it, and they treated him accordingly. They gave him respect for basketball playing, but as a baseball player, what, he stayed 1 year before he came back to basketball? Yeah. Birds of a feather flock. That birds tell each other. That's what's going on. Either you step up or you step out. That is how it's played.
I wanted to just drill down a little bit more on what you were talking about, how things have changed in college sports, because I think that's what Bill was trying to zero in on. Is it social media? Is it more opportunity? And I think, just to be clear, you were saying, like, in other cultures, like the military, they don't give you that option. So you're saying like these people have the rope and they use it to hang themselves in some cases.
Yes. And there's a reason that the military does it the way they do it, because it saves lives and it gets things done. Okay. But what it instills, Steve, is discipline. And I am not a great believer that even though the culture has gotten weird, and the only thing I think that's really changed is the volume of voices. Having so many people in your ear telling you so much crap is just makes your head swim. I do not envy any college player, getting it done. You've got to, connect with the family, keep the family connected, work with that, see if that person and their skill set fits in with the family you have at your school. And then we're going to drill. We're going to instill, in which, you're going to come to the place of there any other place to play than here. Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever noticed that? But people that are all in 20 years later are still saying, go Bulldogs, go Sooners, go Longhorns. I mean, they're lifelong disciples of it. It's crazy, but that's what's been instilled in them. And I don't think more voices just make people weird. Are people a little bit weirder now? Yeah. Is that normal? Yeah. Too many voices. You gotta separate the people and get them with the family that you're trying to create. And if you do that, that's why the military has you get up at a certain time. They make you wear military uniforms. You do orders, and you drill incessantly until the only voice you hear is the drill sergeants. And the reason that is when he says duck, you best duck, or you're going to die. You see? And that's the same way with coaches. They've got to come to a place of saying, this guy's going to get out there. This is going to run. If you run, this is the pattern we're going to do. And if you do that, you're part of the family. If you don't, that's a decision I didn't make. That's a decision you made of not being obedient. But see, it's hard to be obedient, Steve, when you're not humble. Hard to be obedient when you're not humble.
Yeah. And that Netflix has a documentary on Johnny Manziel out now, who is another person.
Wow. Boy, now you've said the other great name about football. God, yeah. Johnny, yeah, he's a poster child for addiction.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious, bad. Ugh. And would you hated to have been part of that team? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that was tough. Good name to bring up, Steve. Good.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm contributing to the Bill Cartwright Show.
Roger,
sorry.
Talk a little bit about your family. We're talking about my family. We're all tied together. Of course, we've always been by sports. Now we're tied together by our grandkids' sports. So that's school sports. So how are you and your family tied right now?
Oh boy, I tell you, I think we're tied by pride, because 2 of our grandchildren moved from South Carolina to Massachusetts, which I would have said was a disaster. Okay. As a therapist, I said, oh, this is not going to go well. They excelled they have just grown. They were well accepted. It was a great fit, and it is amazing. I'd never been in the Boston area, but once in my whole life now, and now all we talk about is Boston and what they're doing and what their life's like. And the little girls surfing there. And we're thinking, surfing in Massachusetts, wow. But there's pride. And the boys playing basketball and football. And look, what do you play with? You use a stick and hit stuff.
Lacrosse.
Lacrosse. There's no lacrosse. I didn't know they played lacrosse in South Carolina. Yeah. Lacrosse. Yeah. But that's what we talk about. That's what we have a lot of pride in. And that's what we talk from my brother and sister or my in-laws. We talk about the pride of performance of the grandkids. You know, and one of the things I always love, even when they were little bitty, is if you sign up, you're playing the whole season. You're either playing it on the field, you're playing it on the bench, but they're not playing it anywhere else. If you sign up, you stay. I love that vibe. I think that carries well for adulthood.
Well, Roger, thank you very much for being on.
Oh, just a pleasure. Just a pleasure.
And you know, I have a couple of other subjects because you're so well diverse that perhaps we can get you back on at another point in time.
You know what you call that? A phone call. You give me a phone call, I'll show up. I'm like an old country boy. When the bell rings for dinner, I'm there.
Awesome.